You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 8 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, and as always, I'm with the wonderful Jeff Gargis.
Hey guys.
Hey Jeff. We have so much in store. Honestly, Jeff, we have so much in store for this episode, and we are talking to an incredible educator. However, before we get into that, Jeff, can I ask you how you're doing?
Ray, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I'm super excited. We're on episode number 8, if you can believe that, episode number 8 of the podcast. Super excited. We've got the one and the only Todd Nesloney here with us. Todd is a incredible educator. He's a principal at an elementary school in, I'm going to try and say this right, Navasota, Texas. He's an author, co-author of Kids Deserve It, and a few other books as well that you probably all have heard of. And he's also an international speaker. He does a lot of sharing his stories and things that he's learned along his journey with other educators, which you know, Ray, we both love that stuff when educators get out and share things. So we're super excited to have you here, Todd. Really appreciate taking some time out of your day. How are you feeling tonight?
Hey guys. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I was like, whoa, wow, somebody actually wants to talk to me. So it was nice to be invited by you guys. And by the way, you got Navasota perfect. So great job, Jeff.
Awesome.
I don't know. Did he have the twang? I think it needed a country twang.
He had a little bit of twang. I heard him trying there with the twang, so that's why it was right on the head.
All right.
Todd said it was good. It was good, Ray. Okay, leave me alone.
All right, we'll trust him. So I know Jeff gave you a little bit of an introduction, but how do you describe yourself when you're asked, Todd? Like, what do you say when someone says, "Hey, Todd, what do you do?"
Yeah, it's always so weird to talk about yourself. But I'm an elementary principal. I love working with kids, and I'm just so fortunate that I get to do that every single day at a campus of about 800 in a tiny little rural town in Texas. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, working to help turn around this campus with the awesome team that I have here in Navasota. I've also written a couple books and been really blessed to have anybody care to have any concern about reading what I've written. But I also travel around and share some of the ideas that not only that I've done, but also some things that we're trying to do at our campus to really push what is normally expected in an elementary school. So I love sharing what I get to do every day, and that's just a little bit about me.
Todd, I love so much of what you've written, and Ray was talking about it before we started recording stuff too. Can you share with us the books that you have written? Just give us the title and just a short little. This is what the book is about.
Yeah, so Kids Deserve It was written with Adam Welcome, and that book was my first book, and that it's such a special thing because that was the first thing that I've ever had really published and out there with my name on the cover, and it's just a book about eliminating excuses for kids and just finding ways to do what's best for them. We put a lot of our heart into that book as well. So there's some personal stories in there and some things that, Adam, when he was a principal, came from a very affluent campus, whereas then I come from a campus with a lot of kids that come from poverty. And so being able to have our ideas mix and talk about how it doesn't matter where you come from, you can still do what's best for kids. And that led into me writing that book and saying, I will never write another book. I put everything out there. That was a lot of work. I have nothing else to say. And then, of course,
right.
Yeah. Well, and then a few months later, I was like, I don't want to write just like a sequel to Kids Deserve It. Like if I'm going to put something else out there, I want it to be different. And so I was sitting with a couple of my teachers one day talking after school, and one of them, they were just sharing ideas of what they were doing in their class. And I had this epiphany where it's like, oh my gosh, somebody once told me, the more recognition you get, make sure that you amplify the voices of others louder than you amplify your own. And that's always stuck with me. And as I was sitting there listening to my teachers and their brilliance, I thought, there's so many educators every day who are down in the trenches working and they don't get any recognition. And the stuff they are doing is far more incredible than some of us that get recognized for things. And I thought, and also as a campus, what do we all say? We all say, man, we could write a book about the things that happen on our campus. And I thought, you know what? Let me go to my publisher. And I went to my publisher and I said, hey, I have an idea. I want to write a book with my team, with my school family. And he was like, do you think you could actually get them to agree to do that? And I said, I think. And so I took the idea to my team and they were so on board. And so we got a book deal. And then when I actually had to get them to write for it, it was a whole nother story. Because then, you got two sets of people. I've got one set who says, do I really have something worthy of being put into a book? And I had to really work on going, yes, you shared this really well, or I remember this lesson that you did, or remember this experience with a kid. Like all of that would be great to share. And I really encouraged them. And then the other side was like, well, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I don't even know what to do. And, or I don't want somebody to read my writing and see that I am not the best writer and judge my teaching ability on that. And I said, well, hey, that's why we got an editor. Trust me, they make me look way better than I am too. And so I collected a bunch of stories and I had about 51 of my team contribute different inserts into the book. And so I wrote the book very much similarly to Kids Deserve It, but every chapter features an insert, whether it's from our school nurse to our school secretary, to our counselors, our instructional aides, even the assistant superintendent submitted a story. And it's just a bunch of teachers at one school sharing lessons they've learned. And the whole idea behind the book, it's called Stories from Webb because I work at Webb Elementary. But the whole idea was that when somebody finishes reading the book, we hope that we have inspired them to tell their stories, because the goal was that anybody could pick this book up. And, so often we pick up books from educational thought leaders or these people who are doing these fantastic works, and we read the books and we go, man, I suck in comparison. Or, I can never be doing what they're doing because they have resources. They have this recognition. They have this. This book that we were able to write in Stories from Webb, it's teachers that are right in there fighting the same battles that everybody else is fighting. But it's not just a book for educators. And that's been the biggest feedback we've gotten, is the people who have been reaching out to us are people that aren't even teachers, that have said, wow, there's so much personal in here. Because one of my favorite chapters in Stories from Webb is It's Okay to Grieve. And in that chapter, several different educators on campus share moments in their life that coincided with their teaching careers that were really difficult. One teacher shares the loss of her boyfriend. Another one shares the loss of her grandmother. And then a really powerful story in there as well is a teacher sharing her suffering 2 miscarriages before her children that she has now were born, and dealing with that and working through that and understanding that she is not to blame in that loss. And we just wanted to provide a really personal look into, as educators, we are so much more than educators. And out of all the books I've written, this one is by far the most special to me, because it's got pictures of my school family in here. It's just like, I got to use my platform to amplify them. And I'm so proud of that, because many of these teachers aren't ever going to win a national award because they're never going to nominate themselves besides me nominating them. They're too afraid to speak on a large stage, but I convinced them to be brave enough to share their stories in this book. And it's something I couldn't be more proud of, which then led to my third book, which is co-written with my buddy Travis Crowder. I was a math teacher when I was in the classroom before I made the leap into administration, and I didn't have any experience teaching reading or writing, but that has become such a passion of mine since I've become a principal. And if I were ever to go back in the classroom, I think I would go back to being a reading teacher after all that I've learned and what I want to do and what I've been pushing people with when it comes to diverse literature and independent reading and writing and all this stuff. And so I met Travis on Twitter. We hit it off, wrote a blog post or 2 together. And I was like, hey, we have good chemistry when we write. Let's write a whole book about this. He's a secondary English teacher in North Carolina. And we ended up with the book Sparks in the Dark, which is a book all about how to kind of illuminate that reading and writing life in each of us, no matter what our subject is, what we do on a campus, or how we work with kids, just building that a capacity to love reading and love writing and tie it into everything that we do. And that's just been a fun journey getting to write that with Travis and then see the great feedback that has received as well. So I know that was a really long answer to a question, but sorry.
No, that was perfect. But now you're never going to write another book again, right?
Travis already was like, hey, let's work on a follow-up. And I was like, Travis, I need like a 6-month break from writing right now. I need to just cleanse myself because I feel like I just threw everything that was ever in my head out there. And it's like, okay, I'm completely empty now. I need to like refuel and get my act together so that I can even consider writing anymore.
It's so fun to hear. I was just saying, it was so fun to hear backstories of the books that we read, right? As educators, I feel like we kind of book swap all the time, whether you're on Twitter or Instagram or you're just talking to your colleagues. There's always a book that someone's like, hey, you should read this. And so being able to not only read it as an educator and get all that amazing stuff that's inside it already, but to hear the backstory is always so much fun. So love it.
Really cool. So speaking of backstories, Todd, I always tell my team and I tell pretty much everyone I talk to, that I've always been really fortunate enough to fail a lot in my life because it's led me to where I am. And it made me into who I am and stuff. And thinking about your career so far and the different positions you've held and now with this journey with writing your books and speaking and working with other educators and everything like that, I'm sure there's a few that you can probably dig up. But can you take us with you and kind of tell us about a time that with a failure that you've had and sort of take us there with you, how it made you feel, what it did, how you overcame it, and then what you learned from that failure?
Yeah, how long do you have for this answer? When I do presentations and things, I always have to preface my presentations with, I'm about to show you a highlight reel because my job is to inspire you and give you ideas. But I always say, I need you to understand, I could do an entire day-long session over just the mistakes and failures I've had in the last 6 months, much less the last 11 years of my career. And failure's hard. Some people get out there on social media and they share these platitudes of, fail forward and embrace failure. And it's like, yeah, it sounds beautiful on a greeting card or a little nice image. But the reality is failure sucks. And it breaks you down and it makes you second guess yourself. And it's hard. We do learn through failure. And I'm never going to act like we don't, but it's not easy. And I really want to make sure that comes across clear, is that I'm not one of those who celebrates failure, but I do look back fondly on the times that I have been able to learn from my failure. And I'll share one with you guys that I haven't even shared publicly yet. This is my first time talking about it. But as elementary principal, I was hired my first year 4 years ago to help take over an underperforming campus. And my first year was rough, and we didn't get out of the hole. And I remember feeling totally defeated. I think I wrote about it in Kids Deserve It. Just about, we got our scores back and mine were the lowest, and it was brought up in front of everybody at a principal's meeting. And I just felt like a loser. I felt like I was the worst administrator. Like they put all this faith in me, and then I didn't raise to the ability they were hoping I would be raising to. And over the next 2 or 3 years, we worked really hard. We got off the bad list from the state. And we were really working on things. And our state this year has changed some of the expectations. I don't know how it works in any other areas, but I know in the state of Texas, there is not one teacher that would be accurately able to explain to you how our school ratings truly work. Because it's so convoluted and complicated. And this year, our state changed everything, even up to a month before we got our final results in. They still changed the rules. And that's not to make an excuse, but that's to say, my campus this year, we fell back below the line. And we got our ratings in, and we did all the data leading up to the ratings, and we were really proud of ourselves because we had moved from several years ago from an F school up to a C plus according to our ratings that we were all figuring out. And then the commissioner came out and changed some of the expectations and said, well, we said these weren't going to count, but now these are going to count. And when we got all that back, it changed our results to where we were now an F school again. We had fallen 1 point below the line. And I remember getting those results actually on Tuesday of last week. And, the first thing I do is, as the principal, I'm the first one to hear the results. And my first thought was, I failed my team again. I know it's a team effort. I know everybody is working their tails off at my school, but I still know that I'm the leader of that campus. And so, rise or fall, that is a reflection of me in some form or capacity. And so, getting those results back and seeing where we were, and seeing all the growth even this year that we had, but because the expectations changed, it makes it look like publicly like we had no results, like we went backwards. But when you look at all of our results, we improved in almost everything. But because the rules changed, we're an F school again. And so breaking that news to my team was heartbreaking, just to see the devastation on their faces. Because as a district, we have 5 schools in our district, and every school has struggled at some point. And we've been on the list or off the list with different campuses. And this year when we got our results, we were the only campus that fell below the line, and that was really a hard hit too. We had the most growth out of any campus, but we still fell below the line. And so, being able to I really believe that we do a lot of great work for kids at my campus that will never be able to be measured on a standardized exam. I really feel like we have tore down a lot of walls connecting with families. We have more family engagement than our campus has ever had. We have more higher attendance than we have ever had. We have the lowest discipline we've had in 15 years. We had 95% staff retention, where before I became a principal, it was 50% staff retention every year. And so those things aren't measured on an exam and don't come back in our accountability ratings. And yes, the test is there. And yes, our job is to educate kids. And I feel like we're really moving up that spectrum there. But it's a hard hit when something like that comes out. And that to the community at large, who are not educators, all they see is the improvement required rating. To the school board, many of whom may not be educators, all they see is the improvement required rating. And for some, everything else gets erased except for that rating. And so it's that whole idea of, we can't let this destroy us. We have to really work to put our focus back on the kids, bring our best attitudes to work, and continue to show up and bust our butts every day, because I have a team that gives up countless hours that they will never be paid, that has thrown in thousands of dollars to provide experiences for our kids. And I know we're doing great work. I know we are. But it's just like it's just like those situations where when you do something personally and one person tells you that it sucked or it hurt their feelings or you really don't do that very well, you take it really offensively, even if 20 people just told you were fantastic. And
Sure.
so I think this is a lot like that. We truly believe that we are doing great work for kids, and we have so much data that is not measured on an exam that we can prove we are doing much better work for kids than has ever been done at our campus. But to know that we'll still be judged by this moment, I mean, that's a hard hit. And to me, that's a failure on our behalf. What did we miss? And it's regardless of how you feel about a standardized exam, it's part of the education game. Mm-hmm. So we got to figure out how to make that work. And we've gone back to our drawing boards, and we are getting a coach assigned to our campus to help us really figure out what we didn't do to help us cross that line. And you know what? We're going to bust our behinds harder than ever before, and we're going to get back over that line this next year if it kills us. But it's still a tough pill to swallow, and it's just hard, when you, like I said, when you're doing great work, but people are going to judge you based on a title.
Well, and I think that's really important. I mean, as detrimental and as frustrating as that sounds, and you guys are kind of in the, Jeff, what do we always call it? That's like you're in the, you're only going up from here, right? You're in this slump right now where you're like, oh, bummer, like everyone's really bummed. But when we talk about failure, especially on the Teach Better team, a lot of what we focus on is like that failure happens and it stinks, and you can dwell on it for a period of time. but then there's always an upside. There's always a direction forward, a direction upward to try and make that better. And really from what I'm hearing from you is that there's really a great reflective moment that your staff can take from this to say, you know what? Yes, this coach is going to come in and support us. But on the flip side, like, it's okay that we've done a lot of growth. And while that didn't show on some sort of assessment, I mean, even just your confidence and how you're speaking about it, like there is really great reflection happening over this. And some of that reflection is, it didn't show on the test, but we know we're doing good things. And that's so important as educators for us to sit back sometimes after a failure and say, okay, didn't go how we expected, but there is some positive elements that can come out of this. And it sounds like you guys are in that upward, drive. I really think that's awesome.
Well, and it's not an easy thing to do because, I know I have two choices, and one choice is I can sit here and I can complain and I can make 1,000 excuses on why we didn't get to where we got and just talk about how the state screwed us over or we never knew this or that. But the fact of the matter is we didn't get kids where the state said we needed to get them. And so I'm not going to sit here and make any excuses. I'm going to say, you know what? We're going to learn from our mistakes. We're going to pick it up. We're going to work harder because our kids don't have the time for us to sit around and be negative and complain. They don't deserve that from us. And there's changes that we can make. And, for me, it's a very hard pill to swallow because I'm such a visible force on social media, and I share these ideas that we do, and to know that, and this is just me being really vulnerable and reflective, but to know that I share all this stuff online and I talk about the great work that we're doing because I know we're doing great work. And when something like this comes out, I'm like, dang it, I look like a liar maybe, or I know this isn't true, but I look like a loser or somebody who's like, oh, well, you know what? You talk about all these great things your campus does, and look, y'all made it on the list again. And it's like, it's such a personal blow to my own way that, I try to be such a positive force online and talk about how when you focus on those relationships, when you build those things, that it all comes together. And you know what? It does. And there's a lot of work that we've done, but it's heartbreaking to know that I didn't get over the line and I've got all these eyes watching me. And now there's people who have been waiting for me to fail and are jumping on it to say, yep, told you, he doesn't know what he's talking about,
Hey, but you know better than anyone. And I mean, gosh, I feel like everybody's had a little of these moments that like you can't appreciate the good times unless you got the ones that make you think. So I totally get it. It's funny, you touched on something earlier that I just loved, and that's what I loved about the stories of Webb, is this relationship concept, this idea that teachers are constantly building relationships with each other, with their network, with their students, with their parents, with their administrators. I mean, this is just such a big piece. So when I flip it over to then new teachers entering the field, whether it be their first time in a job or maybe their first, second year, third year in the career, that building relationship is always something that I try and support them in, trying to pull them in that direction of really relationships need to drive a lot of what we do. What is one piece of advice that you constantly give new teachers and that are getting in the field? What do they need to know?
My biggest thing that I tell the new people that join our team, there's a couple of things actually. One is to remember that you cannot do this on your own. You have not been asked to do this on your own, and you are not expected to do this on your own. I understand that as a new person on a team, whether you are a new teacher to teaching or you are new to that campus, you want to prove yourself. You want to prove that you are knowledgeable and that you were meant to do this, but you will fail if you try to carry it all your own. And I tell my team, I say, the only time I will ever be upset with you for failing is if you never asked for help. It's like I can be in there all the time watching and I can jump in there and try to help you. But if you don't tell me even if that means I need help writing a lesson plan, I need help connecting with a kid, I need help making this phone call, I need help connecting with my team, whatever it is, know that you cannot do it on your own because you will burn out those teachers who burn out from this career, whether you're a teacher, administrator, instructional aide, whatever, they burn out because they don't find a support system who they can turn to and get help, and they try to carry the load on their own because this job is way too heavy. The work that we do, we can't carry the load alone.
That's such a strong piece of advice. And that's true in so many aspects in life. Like just having that support system is so crucial. You have to have somewhere to go to, somewhere to turn to when you have that failure, that challenge comes along, or you get beat down a little bit, and when you're in a classroom, you have these challenges coming at you minute by minute, second by second. So having that support team to help you get through that is just absolutely crucial. It's such a huge piece of success.
Well, and that's why I tell teachers also that the one thing that I wish I would have learned sooner is the power of social media, and just that ability to connect with others when sometimes I felt like I had nobody to connect with on my campus. And because I think some people who listen may go, well, that's great and all, but I don't have that person on my campus. I don't feel comfortable connecting with anybody around me because I don't feel like I've connected with them. And, social media has allowed me, my best friends are people that I met on social media before I ever met them in person. Heck, the reason you guys and I are even doing this podcast right now is because of social media.
Yep.
And so just that, as a principal in a small district, I would not be a principal today had I not found other administrators across the country who have been a powerful voice in keeping me accountable for my decisions, but also encouraging me and letting me vent and telling me their struggles so I don't feel alone. That has made all the difference for me.
I love that you mentioned social media and the power of social media, because I love social media and I really believe in its power. It's funny, you said that's how we met, but it's actually how Ray and I met as well.
It's true. We met on Twitter.
Yeah. So we met on Twitter actually through a very random message that I just happened to see go into our team account, and I replied to it, and we went back and forth, and now here we are, a year and a half or so later. And it's such an important piece that I think too many educators still haven't quite gotten yet. And if you're not on social media yet, you're not on there, you're not utilizing it, you're not connecting to other people, you need to get on there, you need to utilize it. It's so powerful.
Well, heck, even my book Sparks in the Dark, Travis Crowder, who I co-wrote it with, he and I wrote more than half the book together before we ever met in person.
Right?
That's awesome. That's really cool. All right, so now I'm going to challenge you, right, a little bit now. So you shared a lot of stuff with us. I really appreciate how vulnerable you've been and how much you share with us. It's really just invaluable for us. I love it. But now I'm going to challenge you. So I have 6 questions, and you got 15 seconds or less to answer each one. Are you ready?
Lord, here we go. 6 of them. Okay. I'm nervous too. Okay.
I have my stopwatch out. I'm ready to go.
Oh no.
Great. That's even more pressure.
If it makes you feel better, I'm not sure anyone's actually done this. 15 seconds left. So anyway, here we go. So 6 questions. So what is one tech tool you cannot live without?
Right now, it's Flipgrid. Absolutely love how easy it is to use and all the ways you can use it. And it's free for everybody now.
I love that.
Yes, that was recent. That's awesome. What is one book that you are reading right now?
Okay, it's blowing my mind, and it's just such a book that I think everybody should read. But it's called White Fragility, and it just talks about just the idea of racism and, as a white person, what we are born into and what we don't even see about our race. I know that's more than 15 seconds, but I can't just tell a title and move on.
No, I love it. That sounds. What's the title again? Say
White Fragility.
Great. Who do we need to follow right now on Twitter today?
Oh, God. See, that's a loaded question. You're just trying to get me in trouble with people that I know.
It's true. You better say me, Todd. No, I'm just kidding.
Of course. You are definitely at my top for sure. But, I'm always going to give a shout out to my buddy Travis Crowder, who is Teacher Man Trav, who's my co-author in Sparks in the Dark. He is brilliant and always has the best book recommendations out there.
All right. So, what about the best YouTube channel, podcast, or website / blog for educators?
I mean, my YouTube channel, duh. No, I love Soul Pancake for a YouTube channel. They have so many great inspirational videos. I love following Brad Montag on Instagram. He is such a powerful, inspirational force. He is not an educator, but he does so many things for the education field. He's the creator of Kid President. But
Nice.
Brad Montag is brilliant. And then as far as on Facebook, a group that I really love is or they're on Facebook. They have their website and everything. Like it's Nerdy Book Club. I think they're a great organization to follow, as well as We Need Diverse Books. That's another great organization.
Give us one daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Finding time to read every single day, whether that is picking up a magazine, a book, or listening to it on audio while you're driving to work or working out. That has been a game changer for me in the last 2 years of my life and career, is finding that time to read every day.
What's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but I'll go back to it again, and that is amplify the voices of others louder than you amplify your own. We truly are better together, and some people don't have a voice out there that they feel comfortable or safe using, and the more that we can use our platforms to use and amplify their voices, the better we get as a whole field.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
See, you gave me 15 seconds, but I have to expound on some of those answers, so I had to go a little bit above 15. I mean, I could have kept it at 15, but then the viewers would just been left going, well, what does he mean by that? So
Exactly.
No, it's all right. That was great. That was good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, Todd, I get the final question. This is probably the most important one, and it's really focused on how people can connect with you, because while these podcasts are great and, we love being able to talk to you, you shared so much here that I'm sure people either want to continue asking questions about or just want to continue looking at your story and all the things that you've been able to share. So how do people connect with you? What is your best method? What fits your fancy?
I always send people to my website, and that's just toddnesloney.com. If you don't know how to spell Nesloney, spell it as close as you can, and just Google me, you'll find it. But on that website, I have links to every one of my platforms, so you can connect with me however you feel comfortable, whether that's Twitter. I have a Facebook page that I interact with people on. I've got a YouTube account. I have several podcasts I do, but everything is linked all on my website.
Awesome. And you guys know that you can always get all the resources and links and everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as those very important links for connecting with Todd. So we'll include his website and all of those other platforms so that you have everything you need to connect with him and keep the conversation going. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really, really appreciate that as well. Todd, truly, truly appreciate your time and all your wisdom and your thoughts and having some fun with us. And I really appreciate your vulnerability and your willingness to share. So really, really appreciate that a lot.
Are you kidding me? You guys are awesome. So thank you for having me. I love y'all.
Thank you. You are awesome. We appreciate that a whole lot. And everybody listening, until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.